How many wheels are your favorite to ride on? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? But today we have one wheel to rule them all. Actually, 2 or 3 wheels. So today I'm going to talk about the one wheel, and in particular I am going to talk about a motor that I helped design for the one wheel. It's an aftermarket piece. This is a one wheel pint, and as you can see by the absolutely beautifully engineered and anodized rails, this has an aftermarket chassis or whatever they call them in the market. I don't know. I like riding the one wheels. I'm not in the market. This is made by Tech Rails, and Tech Rails is actually run by an old friend, Matt Schumacher. I've been knowing him now for probably well over a decade. We were both in the e-bike industry together, and he has always been on the forefront of a lot of electric sort of technology, whether it was making specialized e-bike drive systems, really high powered stuff. He's always been on the performance side of things. So as you can see with these rails that he designed, high performance type rails, these have a lot of adjustment. I think these are called is it the 357s or something like that, to where you can change between 3, 5, and 7 degree kick on there. And I have these set up with just, I think, 3 degrees on one side and then 0 degrees on the other, because a lot of times I ride backwards on it. And if you have it set up for your normal kick, your 3 and your 7 or whatever the case, it doesn't ride correct in reverse. It rides with a really low nose, because when you kick up the rail, it changes the angle of the controller and how it senses what is level. And I'm not gonna go as far as re-leveling my thing. So yeah, I just have a little bit of kick to it. And most of the times I do ride backwards. So, you know, there's a lot of like little ins and outs when you start upgrading these things. And I'll just say the reason that I ride backwards, normally I ride normal. And for September of last year, I rode switch for a whole month, just so that I could learn to do something in both directions. It's also not good for the body if you're spending many hours in one direction, you know, looking this way only. So yeah, go in this direction. And then I found out that I'm actually more comfortable because of my old leg brake, my knee brake. And when you ride switch, your back is to the curb and not to the traffic. Whereas if I'm riding this way and I'm, you know, on the curb side here, my back is to all the traffic and my front is to the curb, which I don't like that. I don't like it at all. So I will digress of that little side story of this. Matt makes incredibly beautiful and highly engineered products for the one wheels, a bunch of them. Tech Rails is the company once again. And he had contacted me maybe close to 6 months ago at this point about the one wheel motor. And he had started making some essentially hub shells, so you throw it on the motor, and not for the pint. I don't think he has any pint yet, but for the other larger ones, the GT in particular, the more popular one. And you know, he had some questions about the engineering of it, you know, the magnetics, and that's kind of my specialty. So we started talking about things, and you know, what he's got invested into his current wheels and where he wants to go in the future. And I said, well, you know, you could engineer a whole motor, and we started just fleshing out the details, and we made a whole motor. The mechanicals are pretty much his design, and the magnetics are pretty much my design on this. And it's a one wheel motor, and we have them. We have them in hand. They're actually here. So I actually designed a few different stators for it. So we're going to test these different stators. There's different shapes to them. We have different KVs for them, which is a whole another video about one wheel KVs and the things that it represents. And the really big thing, because other companies do actually sell motors, is that we designed a replacement for the OEM connector. So the GTs have a very specific connector on there, and these plug right into them. And as compared to the stock wheel, these should have a higher efficiency. We should have a slightly higher torque density, but it is the same size of stator. So other than the upgrades that we made to the ingredients of it, you know, it's still the same size motor. And if we assume that a motor is a motor is a motor and the efficiency is kind of similar, then it's going to be essentially the same output of a motor. That's just how they work. You can't cram 5 pounds of crap into a 10-pound bag. No, wait, I said that backwards. You know what I mean. You've only got so much room for a motor, so you know there are limitations to it unless you want it to be extremely heavy, and that's the trade-off. He's into racing. Going with an extremely heavy motor, it might have better thermal characteristics. It might be able to pull better going up a hill if your controller is not amp limiting you, at least. But at the same time, if you add 5 pounds to your one wheel and you're a racer, that's a huge amount, and that affects your ability to, you know, weave through objects really fast. So it's all about a trade-off. So we started with a stock size replacement, but a completely different stator shape to it. And again, you know, we're testing 2 different stator sizes, but higher grade of magnets as far as the temperature performance. We changed, I changed the insulation type so that we could fit more copper wire in there. Of course, the stator shape has changed as well for more copper wire. I had one that I made sure was a really smooth spinning, and then the other one, it should actually be a higher torque density because our saturation levels will be a lot higher, but it also doesn't spin very smooth. So I'm not going to be the guy to test it. I'm sending this off to professionals, essentially, to test. And this, I'm going to have nothing to do with selling these. This is not my product. I'm essentially just a product engineer on this. And, you know, I make motors for a living. So when one of my buddies was like, hey, I want to make some motors, I might be able to help you out, sir. So, I guess I could talk a little bit more about the upgrades. We have a higher fault resistance on the inside, which reduces our no load. So essentially the insulation from our winding into the stator has been improved on that. There's a lot of little improvements, like the actual axle itself is far beefier. You know, these axles will break on, you know, like a 200-pound rider, they break these axles super easy. Even a 150-pound rider, if you're being aggro about it, you can break these stock axles. This is so much thicker. And, nobody's gonna break an axle on this one. Nobody's gonna break an axle on this one, I can tell you. I mean, maybe somebody could try, but it's, I did an FEA analysis on it, and it's super strong. And there was like some O-ring grooves that were changed at the same time. Let's see, what else? I'd have to have this sheet in front of me. There's a lot of like little upgrades that will add up to just a nice high quality motor. So yeah, just a pleasure to be involved in a product like this, a project like this, and also, you know, we got them in hand, and that's like the best feeling ever for a designer. Is you get to, these things are almost 14 pounds. It's a hunk of a motor, 4,000 watts. Just, oh yeah, it's gonna be a beefy one. But I'm actually gonna be using some for some RC cars as well. So I've got a 5th scale. It's around here somewhere, and yeah, so the ones that I'm gonna make for me in time, they're gonna be funsies for RC cars. That's gonna be really cool. I mean, you could practically hop on it yourself, but yeah, you could also tow with 2 of these. We could tow like probably 500 pounds. Oh, and these also, I should just mention while I'm talking about the product, these use a common 6-inch tire, which is a go-kart tire, and the ones that this is replacing use a 6.5-inch tire, which is non-standard, so that Onewheel can essentially say, hey, you've got our wheel, you also have to buy our tires. And there's maybe like one other company that does an aftermarket in the 6.5-inch bead set, but these all have 6-inch bead set on them, so you can actually just use a plethora of tires that are out there, and they're extremely cheap when it's not a specific one-wheel tire. The tires are extremely inexpensive when it's a go-kart racing tire. So just really cool to be involved in it. I just really wanted to show you all this and kind of, I don't know, gush a little bit about being involved in a really cool project like this, and getting the magnetics, at least on the one that I was trying to get smooth. I nailed the smoothness at least, and the one that I didn't think was going to be smooth, it ain't smooth. So, you know, just kind of nice to do what you want to do when you want to do it and get it right. So there we go. Onewheel motors, 1, 2, 3 Onewheel motors here. Maybe you'll see them one day. Won't be carrying them in my store, but if you do want to see them or buy them, if you're into Onewheels, go to Tech Rails, give them an email. You could probably get it on the first batch. We've just got prototypes right now. So give them a buzz at Tech Rails. It may be Tech Forum Products URL, but Tech Rails, you search for them, you will find them. So if you do have any questions about them, leave your comments down below. Either I'll try to get to them, or Matt will actually probably find his way into the comments and also try to get to them. So as always, thanks for tuning in, and have a great day.